Welcome back. It is time for our monthly installment with an organization that looks out for us in ways that we can't possibly imagine because we're paying attention to our own lives. That being said, the Summit County Council is very, very important to the quality of life that we enjoy here in Park City and beyond, right across this beautiful county of ours. Tonight, our representative from the fine organization who is here to chat a little bit about what's been going on this summer is Mr. Roger Armstrong. How are you, sir?
I can't live up to any of that. I'm done.
You gotta go.
It's over. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even get to amazing hair.
Yeah,
but see, then I'd be, it'd be the waterworks.
You've got amazing hair too. Yours is much easier to take care of.
It's true.
You spend less on products and all that. So
I have amazing hair in the sense of the Silver Surfer, I suppose. Would be about as close of an analogy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Thank you for being here. What's happening? I know that in some ways the summer is a little bit slower time, or at least that's my sense, for the council as a body that meets and does stuff and things. Are you guys having a typical summer? Are you busy with a ton of projects? What's happening?
You know, in the 3.5 years that I've been on the council, I don't know that we've had a particularly slow period. I mean, we're always trying to stay ahead of things, trying to plan for the future, so it stays pretty busy. Development in Summit County doesn't really stop, so we've regularly got people coming in front of us with development projects, so it's still busy. We've been spending a lot of time lately working on traffic and transportation. It's one of the core issues, I think, for the residents of Summit County. I think people, particularly in the basin, but not exclusively, I think on the east side in Camas and Oakley, they're seeing increases. It's all changing, and as Summit County grows, as the basin becomes filled up, Park City is already fairly well filled up. We're looking at redevelopment now rather than new development. So new development is going to wind up being pushed east, and those people are going to be coming this way to work and going to Salt Lake City. So we're going to see traffic and transportation continue to expand. We've also got a lot of growth happening in Wasatch County. You know, the development that's happening down there at the base of Mayflower for Deer Valley. We're talking about 2 or 3 major hotels, 5-star hotels, a new base resort center, 3,000 new units of housing, plus 17,000 units in and around the Jordanelle. It's going to get big real quick in Wasatch, and that traffic has to pass through us to get wherever it's going. So we've got to stay ahead of that.
And while things have been certainly busy as usual this summer, a little bit of workout on the 40 I've really seen. It's almost like you get a better snapshot, just as somebody driving around, how much traffic there is when that traffic is slowed down and backed up a little bit. And like I say, I've seen some long lines coming from the 80 onto the 40 heading down toward Heber, and you really do, it kind of stands you up a little bit to think what it's like already, let alone, as you say, as more and more bodies, autos, living spaces are a part of our immediate area here.
It's huge, and anytime you have a hiccup in the traffic, when you're starting to fill up, it causes substantial delays. Right now, just trying to come here down 224, there's a light out at Meadows Drive, and the traffic at 5 o'clock was backed all the way to the canyons. Just trying to get through that light. Park City Police is out directing traffic, and that's just one incident. Accidents, things like that tend to, when you've got heavier traffic volumes, tend to just lock it up fairly quickly. And
we used to kind of think that after a busy period like a holiday weekend or the Sundance Film Festival or that sort of thing, you kind of see a lull. It's not as busy, it's not as hard to get around town, and a little bit less of that this year. Yeah, I think we're just starting to notice it. You know, it's a little bit, and we had this conversation last week. We had a joint meeting with Park City and Summit County Councils to talk about traffic and talk about some of the solutions. We spent the last 3 months really trying to get our arms around it, longer than that, the last year, but really on a concentrated basis, the last 3 to 5 months, really examining possible solutions and the kinds of things that we can implement over the next 3 or 4 years, both immediately and continuing on, because we're going to have to phase this in, to try and take care of some of these problems. And you look at levels of service. They rank highways by level of service A. You're moving at the speed limit, nobody notices anything. And that's kind of the way it felt when I moved here 11 years ago. Now we're starting to see
during the morning drive time, during the afternoon drive time, sometimes on the weekends, certainly in the ski season. It's just a little bit slower. There's just more traffic around us. We're still probably doing the speed limit, but it's not as easy to change lanes because there's a car next to us that wasn't there,
right,
or one maybe spaced. And that's how you start seeing the changes in the traffic and seeing that increase in volume that starts to affect us. You know, moving from Los Angeles, people would ask me what it was like to live in Park City, and I said, I can leave my house and I can be any place in 6 minutes,
right,
you know, all the way out to Kimball, wherever I had to go. And that's becoming less and less the case. We're seeing more and more delays. So we've got to get ahead of it, and the way to get ahead of it is really to get people out of cars. We need to come up with good alternatives, not just alternatives, but really good, convenient alternatives that allow people to say, I've got enough time today, I can catch a bus. And we sat down, we really wrestled with those problems. Claudia McMullen and I kind of started the process for the county, working with staff, looking at various kinds of solutions. We know that expecting somebody to wait half an hour for a bus is
non-starter.
It's not going to be a good experience. I mean, it's easier to take a car. So if we can shorten that to 15 minutes or less, if you get to the bus stop when the bus is pulling away, you only have to wait 15. Any place in that midpoint, it may be a 6-7 minute wait. And I think people are going to find that to be convenient. Putting Wi-Fi on the buses, having some of the buses run later.
Sure.
We did that during the wintertime. We increased the frequency of service to the canyons and out to Kimball Junction and back to Park City, and we picked up 35,000 new riders over that period of time, just with that simple change. So we know that we can make changes that will be effective. The next step of that, step in the process, is how do we pay for them? Because buses are not cheap to operate. Every bus system in the country is subsidized somehow. So we need to figure out how to pay for it. We'd like that means to be our own money so that we're not begging UDOT, we're not begging UTA, we're not begging the Federal Transit Authority for money every time we want to do something, and we're at their mercy in terms of how much money they have. So listening to the public who have said, both in opinion polls that we've taken recently and just anecdotally people calling us, traffic is a problem, fix it. It's the single #1 concern of our residents at this point, tied with growth, and they're interlinked. So we need to figure out how to address that. I think we're looking at doing that with a sales tax, 2 sales taxes. There will be a quarter of a percent sales tax that will not apply to groceries. It will not apply to gasoline, but it will apply to other goods that sales tax is paid on, which amounts to 50 cents on every time you spend $100. So
fairly transparent.
And it's any kind of tax is distasteful for most people, but in the world of taxes, this one is a fairly low lift and relatively painless. So we're going to be taking that out to the voters and saying, you've told us to fix it. Here's what we came up with. Is this what you want? And they'll tell us, yeah, do that, or nope, go back to the drawing board. We don't want to do that. Figure out something else. So it's going to be up to the public.
It's a great litmus test for sure.
Absolutely.
So we got to talk about, before we get out of here, because we got to save a little bit of time for Jenny, but the resource management plan, which is an interesting topic, and I'm sure we could do an entire segment on that. But talk a little bit about the upcoming open house that you're going to be having on the 15th to discuss this particular.
This is a nutty little thing that the legislature came up with. Not nutty, but the legislature came to the counties and said, we're talking about trying to pull public lands away from federal control and back to local control. So if we're going to do that, we need to be able to tell a story about how we're going to manage our resources. So all of the counties are now required to come up with a resource management plan, to take a look at the public lands within their communities and within their jurisdictions and figure out a way to manage those resources. How will you do it? So we're in the process of trying to put that together. There's going to be a public hearing on August 15th in the Camas City building from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We would love for the public to come out and give us your thoughts about how we manage public resources.
There certainly ought to be a few keen minds on that particular topic in a place where we love our open spaces
where we
so
like
very
our
much.
Resources. Absolutely.
Roger, it's great to see you.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you for the work that you do on behalf of all of us. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous. That being said, it's all very important, and it is what makes us have such a beautiful space that we have here in Park City. And
Thank
we
you.
appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Good to see you.
You too.
Okay, you guys, quick break. More music from Jenny Gotti after the break. Don't go anywhere.